Welcome everyone to this podcast called the Making a Difference. We're so happy to have Lawrence Stone with us today here in Idaho Falls. He's got a great story that he's going to share with us, and we'll hear his story on how he makes a difference. Wayne?
Well, thank you very much. I'm Wayne Davis, and I'm a part of the Three Amigos today. And we're really glad to have Lawrence with us. I just wanted to talk just a little bit about this podcast. We appreciate you watching it today, and we hope that you'll tell your friends and neighbors and family members to watch us on a regular basis. We're going to have different guests on a regular every 2 weeks is what our schedule is right now, and get a chance to talk to people that are making a difference. Our hope is that you watch this podcast and you'll be inspired not only by the stories of the people that are here, but also that you will want to go out and be someone who's making a difference. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce our friend and colleague, Lawrence Stone. Lawrence is the basic trainer. And Lawrence, we're really glad to have you with us today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here with you. I'm excited to be able to talk about this and supporting you guys on this podcast. Excited to see what you guys end up doing with it and how you move forward and making improvements in the community. That's fantastic.
Well, that's great. Tell us a little bit about the basic trainer. I notice on your wall there, you've got some musical stuff. The basic trainer is the name of your business, and then we'll learn more about you personally in just a moment. But since we're on the topic, so you play the bass?
Yes. So basic spelled with two S's like a string bass. I studied music in college, specifically the string bass. I was mostly focused on jazz bass. I played a lot of jazz, a lot of bluegrass, but I played pretty much every genre. I played in a country band that did mostly original music for a while. I played in a couple of different orchestras, and I love playing music. It's been a long time passion of mine. I tell people that I was raised by my mom to love music. My mom taught piano lessons and was very musical. My dad also played the guitar, but my other passion is cars. You can even see back behind me, I have some cars on the wall as well. But those are some posters from some concerts I've played at with some artists that came in when I was a college student. And then this bass over here is my first bass that I ever purchased when I was in junior high. And it was just a cheap little student bass, but it was great. I don't play it anymore. The strings on there are probably 20 years old at this point. But I've designated it to be my bass to get signed when I meet famous bass players that I admire. And so far I've met 4 of them, but I've only had it available for one to sign. Brian Bromberg signed it a number of years ago. But it's kind of fun to have around and keep around, and good memories associated with it, and a lot of fun for sure.
Well, that's great. Well, hopefully you'll get a chance to get those other signatures down the road. Well, tell us a little bit about you personally, about your family, where you're from, a little bit about your background and what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I'm Eastern Idaho native, raised in St. Anthony, Idaho, Parker area, just outside of St. Anthony, and love Eastern Idaho, the outdoors, love camping, fishing, kind of all the standard Eastern Idaho things that people like, four-wheeling, snowmobiling. A lot of my background growing up was a lot of focused on music. I was really active in music. My parents always wanted me to study music in college, and I tried to deny it for a couple of years, but I eventually got there. That's where, I tell people with my business, the basic trainer, and as a bass player, I established a rhythm of great music, but as a business coach and as a communication consultant, I established a rhythm to your vision. That's kind of what my slogan is. After high school, I had the opportunity to go serve a mission down in Mexico for a little while. I came back, went to school up in Rexburg at BYU, Idaho, met my wife. I had a couple of rules when it came to girls I was dating in college, and one of those was I don't want to live in Utah after graduate, so don't date anyone from Utah. Well, I married my wife from Utah, and she definitely drug me down to Utah for a few years. But fortunately for me, I was able to convince her to come back to Idaho, which is home for me. I love Idaho. First thought about doing this when I was going to college. I was really trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I was exploring all sorts of different avenues. I was in engineering. I thought about engineering for a while. I went to business management, and even when I switched over to music, I was still minoring in accounting because I still wanted that business side to be developing and to be growing. But I felt very conflicted as to which direction I was supposed to go with in my life. I was working for a company and I was starting to move up into management. I noticed there was a big disconnect between management and the employees, and communication issues. And the further up I went in the company, the more noticeable it was. And I realized that I didn't have the future with this company that I thought I would have. And one day, I was driving to work and I was listening to the radio, and I was listening to an interview with John Maxwell. And he was talking about business coaching and communication coaching. And as I heard him talk about it, I was like, well, that's what I could do. I love communicating. I love talking to people. I had taken some classes on teaching and on training, and I had even taken a few jobs. And that was one of my favorite things about my job, was when I got to train new hires and help customers solve their problems. And so I was like, yeah, I could do that. I could help businesses communicate better because I'm learning a lot about how not to communicate for the company I'm working for. As quickly as I got that idea, I refer to it as my shoulder devil came up. And you got your shoulder devil, it's that negative voice in your head that tells you can't do things. And it's interesting because the way he talks is like, yeah, that would be really cool. That would be a lot of fun. Too bad no one will ever listen to you. And the argument he made is all the people who you're thinking about that do this, like John Maxwell, have written books because they're experts on something. And you're not smart enough to ever write a book. And so no one's ever going to listen to you. Because of that, I just essentially threw that idea away. But I always sought opportunities for mentoring, for helping other people. So, for example, whenever I interviewed for a job, I had two questions. What books can I read to help me do best at this job, be the best at this job? And the second thing I always ask is what opportunities are there for me to mentor? And whether it was a client or another employee, I wanted those opportunities. And so I always sought that and kept continually developing that skill. As I grew older, eventually I got to the point where I decided, you know what? I stopped listening to my shoulder devil. I want to start building my business. And it actually happened when I was listening to a webinar from one of my mentors, Kirk Duncan from 3K Elements down in Utah. He basically said, it's time for you to start your coaching business. And so like, yeah, it is time for me to start my coaching business. And so I stopped putting away the excuses and I realized what I really wanted to focus on is still communication. I want to help people improve their communication, but I also want to focus on what I refer to as the rising generation of leaders. So young adults especially, but anyone who's trying to come up and become a leader, that's a big area of what I want to focus on because I believe there's a lot of potential there. We're starting to see a breakdown in people's ability to communicate one-on-one and in person with each other. And so I want to continue to help improve those communication skills because that's really going to be the differentiator, I believe, in a lot of leaders going forward is their ability to connect and communicate with people.
Michael, do you have some questions for Lawrence?
It's interesting that people have a background, right, of experiences that lead them to the place they need to be at. The word destiny is strong. It seems like you've been prepared for this, haven't you?
Yeah, I feel like I have. It's interesting because I've always had a side hustle. So I've always done something entrepreneurial ever since before I was married. My 17-year anniversary is coming up this year. And even since before that, I've always had a side hustle. Even in college, I was gigging and playing music on the side enough to support a wife and a daughter for about 6 months on a broke college student income. And I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. And as I've used that and going into different businesses, I'd work retail management for a couple of different stores at the same time. And I took two bottom performing stores and made them top performing stores. I came up, my dad had started a business and he did the first year by himself. I came up in the second year and within a couple of years, I basically 10x'd his sales. And so I have that track record. I've had successful sales jobs. I've had successful management positions and leadership positions. And I chalk a lot of it up to my ability to communicate with people. And so that's why I've taken communication as such a big focus in my business.
Who are you focusing most on?
It kind of depends on different things, but a lot of different businesses that I've been finding lately, I've been working with a lot of trades companies. There's a need for trades workers in today's world, and we're starting to see that people are picking up on that. And so again, you can kind of hit that young adult demographic. But the other thing with trades workers is a lot of those technicians are really good at the technical stuff. They're really good at servicing and fixing things, but they're not always great at communication and customer interaction. It's been focused around helping these technicians offer better customer service, connect with their customers better. Coincidentally, that also helps them be able to upsell products so that they can make more money because a lot of companies will give them spiffs or commissions. On top of that, it also improves the customer experience. So the customers are going to be more loyal to that company. And then not to mention within the company environment, if you can understand how to communicate with each other better, then that's also going to improve the environment within the organization.
Excellent.
Well, for people that are watching this podcast, maybe for the first time, don't realize that Lawrence and Michael and I, the three of us, three amigos, hey, if you've seen the movie. But at any rate, we are working together. We are doing business training, and we have a seminar we put together called Light Your Fire. Lawrence, would you talk a little bit about how important it is not only develop certain characteristics in leadership, but also how to track them and see the kind of results you're getting?
Yeah, and I think what you're kind of alluding to is talking about daily routines and daily success habits that kind of referring to. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of daily routines. So I'm part of the John Maxwell Certified Leadership Team, and I feel like I signed up at just the right time because part of that certification is I had to go to Florida and attend a meeting to finalize that. And the one I went to just happened to be the same one that James Clear was speaking at, who's the author of Atomic Habits. And I was excited to be able to go to that meeting because I love that book, Atomic Habits. And he really lays it out well there. Success happens in the daily things that we're doing, in in those habits and patterns. And I've shared this a lot with my clients that our thoughts do not equal change. Just because we think something, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. Now, thoughts are an important part of it. And I even talk about manifesting and speaking things into existence, and because we get the life that we focus on. And so we want to think and speak the things that we want, but it's not our thoughts that are going to make that happen. We have to take those thoughts and we have to take action on those thoughts. And a lot of time it's that daily action that we need to take. We need to get consistent with things. And as we get consistent with things, we build patterns, which turn into habits. And it's those patterns and habits that create change. And so it's a process and it takes a lot of time. And so a lot of times what I do when I teach my clients and we're trying to establish new habits is I tell them to look at 4 areas. Stephen Covey refers to them as sharpening the saw, but look at your life mentally, spiritually, physically, and socially, and come up with one thing that you can do every day in each of those 4 categories to improve your life. And so, physically, obviously, exercise is a big one for a lot of people, but it can even come down to eating healthier or going to bed at a certain time, things of that nature, anything that's going to improve your physical health.
Well, I think one of the things that's really exciting is that you've developed a tool to help people track results, not only with that, but also what we're offering in the 4 areas Michael has developed on important character traits for leaders. So how important is it, you think, for people to track how they're doing on a daily basis, weekly, monthly? How important is that, you think that is?
So it's crucial and essential. So Dr. Maxwell calls it the law of awareness in his book on the laws of growth. The law of awareness is you have to know yourself to grow yourself. And so that tracking feeds into that awareness. And it's based on a sheet that my mentor, Kirk Duncan, he gave me, but it's essentially the same idea, where you have AM things that you're trying to accomplish before noon and PM things you're trying to accomplish before you go to bed. And those are part of your daily routine. And at the end of the day, you're reviewing and making sure you did all of those things as part of your routine. And the way the worksheet's set up is you have the whole week there. So at the end of each day, you look at what you did and what you didn't accomplish. Congratulate yourself for what you did accomplish. And then what you didn't accomplish, make a plan for the next day to do better and to accomplish it. One of the things we do is oftentimes we fall through on commitments. And when we do that, it hurts us and causes us not to trust ourselves. And so we're working on ways to rebuild that trust with ourselves. So when we're marking things off, look, I'm following through on my commitments, I'm getting these things done, it rebuilds that integrity. But the other problem that costs us is when we don't follow through on things, we tend to try to ignore it and pretend it didn't happen and hide it from ourselves, rather than forgive ourselves and give ourselves grace. So the other nice thing about it is when you're tracking, you have it there. It's like, I missed this. I understand that I missed this. I can forgive myself, give myself grace, and move on and do better the next day.
Michael, do you have some questions for Lawrence?
I did a little research for a book, and this goes back to Ben Franklin and even further back, right? Tracking your progress or lack thereof in this area of personal accountability.
Yes.
So I love the idea that you're saying it helps build trust and integrity with yourself so that then you have more confidence to move forward.
Yes, absolutely. And that's one of the things that I've done with my life is I'm studying successful people. I'm studying wealthy people. I'm studying people who I want to emulate. And one thing that I've found is a consistency with all the top successful people is personal responsibility. They all take responsibility for what their company does. Even if someone else made a decision that's negatively affecting it, they recognize that the buck stops here and they're taking responsibility for it. I had a presentation that I did the other day, and I have a gal who's interning for me, and I had her help me with the presentation, and I didn't have time to review everything she put on it. And when I got to the presentation, I realized that she had screwed something up. So people kind of laughingly brushed it off. You could tell some of them were a little upset about it and had to fix it in the moment. And ultimately I had to say, you know what, it is my responsibility. I should have done a better job reviewing it before we came out. And so even though she created the presentation, it was still my job to make sure that everything was as it needed to be. And so taking that personal responsibility is a massive characteristic you find in successful people.
For our viewers, in addition to working together on business training, lighting your fire for leaders, we also are working together on establishing mentor centers in communities across the United States. And we're starting one here in Idaho Falls we're really excited about at the senior center. So these mentor centers are going to be for seniors and also for youth that find mentors in their life and seniors. And we're really excited about it. Mentorcenters.org is the organization that we're supporting, a not-for-profit. Lawrence, you talked about mentors earlier. Why is mentoring important to our viewers?
Mentoring is again one of those things that I found that every successful person out there who's really done something that's made a positive impact has had some sort of mentor. I mean, even look at musicians, they have trainers and teachers that help them know the music and learn the music. But you need to have someone there with an outside opinion. And one of the things that I coach people on is on building the right relationships with people, the people you want to have in your inner circle. And you need to have people who love you, you need to have people who believe in you, and you need to have people who challenge you. And a good mentor will be all of those things. In fact, the sign of a good mentor is they're going to make you feel uncomfortable, and not in a creepy way, but in a way that helps you grow. Growth doesn't happen when you're comfortable. It happens outside your comfort zone. And so you need to have a mentor to call you out on things, hold you accountable, follow up with you, because there are things that you're not seeing. There are things that you think are okay, but they're actually holding you back. And that's what a good mentor is going to do, is they're going to help call you out on those things and discover those things so that you can improve them. And a lot of people don't like it because, oh, it costs money, or really, and it's not even, money's typically not the issue. Money's the excuse. The issue is that they don't like being told that they're doing something wrong, or that they're getting something wrong, or that they're going in the wrong direction. But they need that, despite the fact that they don't like it. And they use, oh, it costs too much as an excuse to not get it.
Talk to us just a little bit about the power of a mentor in your life.
Probably the biggest example I share with people is Kirk Duncan, who I mentioned before with 3 Key Elements. I met Kirk just by accident. We just happened to be going to the same church. I didn't even realize what he did until I knew him for like 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
And one day we're just talking about what we did, and I was working in insurance at the time. When he told me what he did, it was right after college, and I was like, that's the coolest thing ever. I wish I knew how to do that. And just a lot of admiration for him. And it was interesting learning from him these ideas of credibility that I didn't have, because I had majored in music instead of business. I didn't stick with business, and I'm not smart enough to write a book and all these things. And Kirk barely graduated high school, didn't go to college, had a mediocre sales career after a custodial type career, and he started this coaching business, and now it's, at least a 7-figure business, and he maybe even more, and he mentors people all over the world. And it just really kind of shot that I don't have the credibility idea out the door, because he figured out how to do it, so I can figure out how to do it too. And I'd taken courses and trainings from Kirk. I'd interacted with Kirk on many occasions. And so when I started my business, Kirk also had a program to help me get my business off the ground and start mentoring people, and had some programs to help me develop my business. And so I immediately went to him, and I wanted his help in being able to do that. And it was great because I was able to have calls with him, and I was able to talk to him and interact with him even more, and which I hadn't done in a few years. And so it was great to come back and reconnect with him. And I definitely had a different perspective, knowing how much I had grown in my life and the things I discovered. It was even more impactful for me at that point, and I was able to understand those things on a deeper level. So Kirk is certainly one of those that stands out as one of the primary ones. But there's certainly a lot of other people. After I started, I found out that my dad's cousin's wife technically, is a public speaking mentor and coach. And so I've been able to take some classes with her and interact with her. And where I barely knew her before, I feel like we have a much better relationship now. And so that's been kind of nice to have her in my corner as well. And all these other people who I didn't realize were coaches that were connected to my life, I've been able to connect with them on a deeper level. And it's been great to build those relationships.
Michael, do you have any other questions for Lawrence?
No, I just think just the reminder of the power of change, right? It's just incredible how far a person can come in their life. My grandmother used to talk about thoughts are things, and it starts with that, doesn't it? Redefining who you are, and that you really can overcome obstacles by, as you said, taking action and then tracking your progress.
Lawrence, we appreciate so much you being on with us today. How can our audience get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can find me on social media. I primarily post reels and videos on Instagram and TikTok, but some of that also crosses over into Facebook. I occasionally post on X, formerly known as Twitter, and LinkedIn. I'll post stuff on there as well. So you can certainly find me on all those platforms. My handle is at The Basic Trainer. Remember, that's basic with 2 S's, like a string base. And then I have my website, thebasictrainer.com. I'm actually in the middle of changing some things on it.
We really appreciate you being on with us today. I'm going to turn it over to Michael in just a moment. Just a couple of other things, just some shameful announcements, I guess. One is that, like Michael, I have published a book. My book is called Joy, Your Natural State. It's on Amazon. You can get it on Kindle or on paperback, $4.95 or $12.95 on paperback. So if you want to learn more about joy, you can do that. You can also reach me through my email, WayneQ2017@gmail.com. The Q, by the way, stands for quality, just so you'll know. No, it doesn't. It stands for Quentin. But anyway, WayneQ2017@gmail.com. And we're going to have more information in future broadcasts about how you can support mentor centers or not-for-profit. We're really excited about that, and we'll share that in future broadcasts. So again, Lawrence, thank you so much. And I'm going to turn it back over to Michael.
Lawrence, thank you for your story. I was a therapist for many years. I know that most people struggle with their self-image, with self-esteem, and you're spot on. We need trainers, we need mentors, we need consultants. whether it's macro or micro situations. And with outside influence and with hard work, we can change our lives. So thank you for telling your story. I see you doing nothing but growing and becoming a very successful person,
Thank you.
along with our own organizational things that we're trying to do here. So thank you again.
Thank you. I'm glad I was able to be here.
Absolutely. Well, until next time, our audience, we'll say goodbye for now, but next week we'll have another interesting person that's making a difference. So until then, goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.